So our first panel is Driving Change, Renewable Diesel in Production. This session is made possible with the support of our program partner, Ontario Green Screen at Ontario Creates.
And I'd like to invite our panelists up to the stage. We have Samantha Leigh at SPEC, Sustainability Consultant and Production Team Lead at Green Spark Group. Brendan, oh yeah, come on up. Brendan Selke, Sales Executive, Wholesale Sales, Suncor Energy Products Partnership. Woohoo! Feel free to make noise. I know it's morning, but why not? Chris Agoston, producer, line producer on The Greatest. Mark Angel, founder and president, Krypton Rental Group, Inc. And we have our wonderful moderator, Justin Cutler, Ontario Film Commissioner at Ontario Creates.
All right.
Take it away.
Okay. Oh, are we on? Can you hear me? Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name's Justin Cutler. I'm the Film Commissioner of Ontario and the co-chair of the Ontario Green Screen program. And I'm so thrilled to be here presenting this panel on SPF's 10th anniversary. And I'd like to wish SPF a very happy birthday. Before we dive into the panel, I just wanted to say a few things about Ontario Green Screen. First of all, that we're proud to be a sponsor of this event. And OGS is a public-private partnership of 24 industry and government partners. We produce all of the resources, the training opportunities, and the partnerships to make sustainability possible in the industry in the province. And I think we share many similar values to SPF, specifically around community building and sustainability. In fact, we actually have people tuning in from across Ontario who couldn't make it here today, and that was made possible through a partnership between SPF and OGS. So welcome to everyone who's tuning in from across the province. Our primary focus at OGS is really reducing the carbon footprint of production in Ontario, and we're hyper-focused on material circularity and fuel reduction and emissions reduction. And I think that in many ways that's a nice segue to this morning's panel, because we know it's been widely reported that fuel usage is the leading contributor to our industry's carbon footprint. It probably also comes to no surprise. We're a highly mobile industry. We work everywhere in the province, and we've had to rely on convenient fuel sources that are widely available and work in a huge assortment of devices. And that's created a bit of a reliance on petrodiesel fuel. And so as we make this gradual shift to electric or hydrogen power, we still need to figure out and understand what solutions are available, particularly drop-in fuel solutions that can fit our existing infrastructure, our devices, and even our government policies around managing that type of fuel. And I think that's where this panel comes in. We've got an incredible group of people here who launched a pilot program earlier this year on Amazon Prime's upcoming show, which will be incredible. It's called The Greatest. And this is all part of a pilot that was put in place to help Amazon reach their net zero carbon emissions by 2040, that target. So we have a group of panelists who represent the entire decision-making chain on production. We've got producers, we've got suppliers, vendors, and sustainability consultants to walk us through how this was made possible. And I'm going to turn it to Brendan first. Brendan is kind of our local fuel expert on the stage, and I'm hoping that, Brendan, you can start by describing the differences between some of these fuel types we've heard about. There's a lot of buzzwords: renewable, reusable, bio, eco-fuel. I know you've provided a bit of a deck to walk us through, so maybe I'll turn it over to you, and you can help us understand this a bit better.
I will try my best. So before I get into that, though, I do want to start off today by thanking Ontario Creates, Samantha, for putting through that first phone call. I think working for Suncor and for Petro-Canada, we have options. We want to get these types of solutions out there, but we need committed partners and folks to help us on this journey. And the ripple effect, if that's going to be the theme, that didn't start with me, that started with individuals here in the room that have now provided the company that I work for an opportunity to provide this fuel to help get us to a greener, cleaner place. So on the term of renewables, it is a buzzword. It is a term that anyone uses sometimes interchangeably and may or may not believe that it means one and the same thing. It isn't. We have EV vehicles that you can now go to a variety of different locations and fill up, sort of power your cars and vehicles that way. You have other options of more traditional fuels like a biodiesel. And I know when we met last week, this was one of the questions that came up to say, well, what's biodiesel and what's EcoDiesel and what's sort of the differences? So a biofuel works, it's kind of a science experiment, I guess would be the simple way for me to describe it. And it's a refined product that sort of goes through this composition of taking in different products and creating this fatty acid fuel that you can use. But for end users, they have to go through an entire process of swapping out your tanks and cleaning it. It's only good for seasonal use, or it possibly can gel your equipment and your fuels. And so Suncor and Petro-Canada, we've had a fuel in the market space for quite a bit of time. And it goes through, thank you for the prompt there on the screen. I guess it's behind me here. So it is a feedstock materials that's blended together and through a chemical process is converted into fuel. It works very similar to a traditional diesel fuel that you'd have in your cars, but it doesn't come without its challenges and problems for the end user. And that's where this process of having to clean your tanks and get it ready for use has come from. So I think most individuals in this room that are connected with any type of fueling, of ordering it or filling up a vehicle, are familiar with this type of fuel, just like our company was. We started to realize, though, that the transitional process of getting people to have to go through a lot of the change to get this product to work wasn't easy. And we found an easier solution. And that's where EcoDiesel comes into play here. And the term that I think a few of us will use here today is drop-in. You as an end user, anyone that's purchasing and filling up your vehicle, your tank, your generator, your lighting equipment, you don't have to do anything. This EcoDiesel drops right into the tank and works exactly the same as a traditional diesel, but actually burns cleaner and is better for the environment. And so when we're talking about making these types of ripple effect changes of starting small and ramping up, this is where I think Petro-Canada came to the table and was looking for partners and folks to look into this solution and see it's easier. So if we can go to the next slide on the EcoDiesel piece. Sorry, the next slide. I guess I'll start on, sorry, did I answer the question on this one? We're good to keep going? Okay. So the next picture here just describes a couple different diagrams of the types of tanks and the types of solutions that would happen on yard. And this isn't meant to be super comprehensive or it's meant to be more high level, but on the left side of the page, you're seeing the approved portable containers that you can use for the fuel. If you're looking to actually have a tank that's there on yard, these are the types of things that you would have already. This EcoDiesel fuel works with any of these types of portable container options. You just buy it and you put it right into one of those containers and are able to put it into those to your vehicles, your lighting equipment, your generators. And so from a perspective of what's different, nothing. The EcoDiesel works the same as the regular diesel that you could be buying from one of our gas stations. And I think the goal that we had when we came to talking about what this production was going to be was, how does this solution help and make things a little bit easier? What is it that we have to do from a site level perspective to make this easy for everyone involved?
Great, thank you. It's a great crash course in biodiesel. Sam, I'd like to turn to you to talk a little bit about the origin of this project. I think you were the first person who started conversations with Amazon. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you got this off the ground and what support was available to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Justin. Yeah, so renewable diesel, I'm going to use the words renewable diesel just to add to the confusion here. But this has been widely used in other parts of the world across the continent, out in California, quite common in Vancouver. And it's something that through my network of the colleagues that I work with and just being involved at this level in the industry, I was very aware that it was very possible. And unfortunately, we didn't have it in Toronto until this year. So I got brought onto the greatest by Chris. Thank you, Chris. And immediately, we learned that it was an Amazon production. And they have an R&D fund, which is available to their productions, where you can apply for funding to help support transitions. So I was aware of this. I brought it to Chris as an idea. Chris said, go for it. Let's see what you can do. And we started having those conversations very early on. So I reached out to Brendan over here. I reached out to another company to get some quotes. I put those proposals together, talked with the teams on the ground. We had a really supportive transport team as well as many other individuals on the production. And from there, we were able to actually put together a plan and an approach to bring this product onto production. So something that was really helpful was this fuel is available from, I believe, May till October, September. He's nodding, okay.
Correct.
Correct. So we had a little bit of lead time in order to get it started. We went through the application process, we got funding approval. I double-checked and triple-checked with everybody up and down the line to make sure that we could actually use this fuel. And we finally managed to get it on right towards the end of the show as the first production in Toronto to use this product. So it was I had many sleepless nights, is what I will say. It was a long process, but really rewarding.
I bet. I just want to stay with you for a second because I think you worked very closely with MBS and the studio at Downsview. I'm curious about what kind of costs were involved in getting this off the ground.
This is a really great question. So I mentioned that we had to solicit quotes at the beginning. Obviously, without having a retail station available for us to go fill up, like other places in California and Vancouver, we had to talk through the process of getting a tank on site. And so Brendan showed, I forget which side of the screen it was on, but we ordered one of those tanks. We were able to rent it. We had to, of course, pay for the delivery, the moving of this tank, and the fueling. And it's up on the screen. I forgot I had pictures. Thank you. So on the screen here, you can see the final setup that we had up at the Downsview facility. On one of the sides, you'll see the coordinator I worked with, without whom this would not have been possible. Her name's Naomi. She's sitting over here, just to embarrass her a little bit. And that was a really we certainly had our hiccups and the challenges that we went through. You can see that this setup, it's not just as simple as dropping a tank on the ground. Obviously, we wouldn't drop it, Brendan, that would be bad. But there were many safety requirements that the facility required us to follow through with. And one of the barriers that we did come up against was we had thought we had met all of the safety requirements. The tank showed up on site and we learned that there were more. So that was a little bit of that's the sleepless nights that I'm talking about here. But this was the setup that we had. It had to be safely in an area that it wouldn't risk getting bumped, and of course it had to be available, protected, no smoking, spill kits, all of that had to be on hand.
That's great. Okay, thank you. Chris, I'd like to bring you in here as line producer. Why did you feel this project was important to fund and administer, and what was your role in the early stages of this?
Yeah, sure. So Samantha and I have worked together. This was our second project, I think. Yeah, second. We'll do our third soon. So, I mean, really top of the project, I'll say, like, Green Spark and Andrew's in the house here somewhere as well. We started working with them, and we'll continue working with them. We level set right off the top when we meet. We talk about what the project is, what the project's needs are, and then what's available to us. And you mentioned our transport team are phenomenal. We've been very lucky. Myself, my transport coordinator, Samantha, we're all kind of looking for opportunities for the next shows. So things we've heard about, things we know about. Obviously, Green Spark's much more knowledgeable than any individual about this. So Samantha comes to the table with something like this. She's heard me say this before, like, we try everything, but I feel like the things, the priorities to me are what I kind of call big bites, like opportunities where with the smallest number of people on the set, getting on board with the biggest possible impact for the show. So on set, we try all sorts of things, obviously water, garbage, all those types of things, but I feel like there's a lot of efforts where, you know, the maybe not so great behavior of 5 or 10 people can really kind of weigh down the overall effort. I feel like things like this are great opportunities where if 5, 10 people buy in, we can make a massive difference. So I was really excited when she brought renewable diesel. It was not my thing, it was yours. And just as an opportunity to basically plug and play something that's already working, something that can immediately find its way into play, and it's seamless. And also, if there's any issue with it at any point, the conventional model's right there immediately. So I can kind of say to my crews, say to the studio that there's no concern about a fail-safe. Like, we can go forward with this, we can try this out. If there's any issue, there will be no disruption in what we're doing. But if it works out, we will see a really meaningful impact, to where our mission's at the end of the show, basically. So it's really to approve it, to get behind it, and to like level set and message to basically the whole team that it's a priority, and that goes a long way.
That's great. And Chris, just to stay with you for a second, I'm so curious about the budgetary process here. Is this looped into production budget, or is this separate? And for the producers in the room, how would you manage this if you didn't have maybe Amazon at the table supporting this?
That's a mixed bag. So obviously, it depends on the studio from my end that I'm working with. Amazon was very supportive. Some are extremely supportive. Some are, they say the right thing, but there's nothing actually behind it to support it. So it's tough. I mean, obviously, we're working on the greatest was a fairly sizable budget, so we have a little bit of flexibility. And I think for us, it means that we can tap into the funding from an Amazon, but that if there are gaps, it's something we can look at in our production budget and say, okay, if we have to eat it a little bit on this, like if it's worth doing, and I'm behind that. And same thing with the studio, as long as they're supportive of the fact that, look, this may cost a little more money up front, but we all agree it's worth doing, and hopefully we see that back in impact. It's fine. But I mean, it's tough. Like, I don't think we've done anything, Samantha, yet that hasn't had at least some sort of budgetary impact to production up front, and we just have to kind of be willing to give it a try. Specifically, like on our last show, we that was something as simple as going to our friend Mark over here and like really embracing a hybrid and EV fleet, and to just invest the money up front. And that was actually something by the end of the show, we could easily see the fuel costs more than outweigh. Like, there's some of that, and then there's something like this that's maybe not quite that, but we have so many heavy trucks, so many vehicles that just churn through diesel that the impact will be massive. Yeah, that's worth doing.
Okay, thank you. That might be a great segue to Mark. Mark, I'm so curious about your perspective as a transportation vendor in this value chain. What considerations need to be made when dropping in renewable diesel into your fleet?
From our perspective, when Sam called, we said yes immediately. Like, we had no concerns at all. It's like anything. If you buy quality, you get quality. So if it's good fuel, it's good fuel, and we had no problem with it at all in any of our vehicles. So it was a very easy yes for us. We've dealt with it over many years now, and we've never had any issues that are worth discussing. So again, very easy yes.
Very easy, yes. Okay, great. And are there any specific considerations about the filtering of the fuel? And do you have to have conversations with companies like Suncor to be able to make this possible?
For sure. We'd like to validate that the fuel that's going in is a higher quality fuel, which it is. And just, from the production's perspective, if they let us know that they're doing it, we can pay a little bit more attention and monitor just to keep our eye on it and capture that data, because we love capturing the data. So it'll help us in the future debunk a lot of the myths that are out there right now. So
that's great. Okay. Samantha, back to you. I just wanted to talk through some of the logistical questions and maybe barriers that you faced. What was the size of the project team? Who was included? And what more can you say about how to get this off the ground?
Great questions. I will say straight off the top that I don't know if I could actually capture the size of the project team, because as Chris mentioned, we had so many people being incredibly supportive of this initiative. I shouted out Naomi already. We had somebody else on our team as well. We also worked very closely with the fuel truck driver, because he was the one who was going to be working with the tank, putting it in the equipment, promising us that he could use all the fuel so we wouldn't have to pay for having anything left over. That was really important. So speaking back to some of the logistics and the challenges, I already mentioned our timeline. We shot until about the end of July, and so we had the period of May when the fuel was available to get all the funding, secure all of that, order the tank, get all the permission forms, all the approvals signed. And a challenge that came up for us very late in the process was I had spoken with all of the vendors that we needed to speak with and got approval in writing with the transport coordinator copied that we could use this product in their equipment because, as Brennan mentioned in his initial presentation, there is still a lot of confusion out there and some people are very hesitant to, like, it's a new fuel. They don't know about it. What we uncovered, though, as the fuel was really, really close to being delivered, was that there were several other vendors who I didn't know we were hiring trucks from. So I know Naomi and I spent a day where we were just calling people. And this was a bit more of like a challenge, I think widely in the industry. But if a transport person who rents trucks picks up the phone from a number they don't know, they hear a young woman's voice, I would get spoken down to pretty quickly. Not all the time. Sometimes it was really, really wonderful. But that was where having somebody like Mark already behind it and having some of the other vendors already behind this that I could name drop, that was really, really powerful because everybody in this industry knows each other. So I know, Mark, we spent that Friday afternoon sending out phone calls and you texted me the next week and said, "Did you tell everybody?" I said, "Yes, it's okay." But I just fielded so many calls from people who maybe own and rent a few trucks that are on this production. And I told them I was supportive of it. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, we got a lot of calls. Just because we seem to know a little bit more than most. So they were just looking to us for reassurance that it was okay, and we gave it to them, and I think it helped. I hope it helped, but yeah, we got a lot of calls. It was great.
Yeah, so thank you for that. And logistically, once all of that was sorted out, we had some other challenges, like I mentioned, learning about new safety requirements that we hadn't been told about beforehand with the tank, but the other main challenge there was the train had already left the station. So we were in production. We got this fuel in just the final weeks of filming, which was a little bit stressful, a little bit fun. But at the end of the day, having a dedicated coordinator on the ground was essential because she and I would be having our calls to check in and I'd say, "Okay, where are we at with this form?" And then she would see the person who needed to sign it and say, "Give me a second," and run across the lot to go and get that signature. So it was really critical.
That's really helpful. Brendan, I'd love to turn to you about like, what special requirements might be required for handling this material or even delivering the material, because it's different than how we normally purchase fuel. So maybe you could talk about that a bit.
Sure. So if we can go back to the slide deck, I think I sort of preemptively asked for the second, I want to say it was a second slide, just that had the graphics of the tanks on the portable tanks on the left and the larger tank on the right. And I'll stall as we're getting that up in the background here. I think where, especially in the TV and the film industry, if a transport coordinator needs to get fuel, generally they've got a gas card that they're able to go to a site and to fill up. In this particular case, we are talking about a bulk solution. So what Suncor and Petro-Canada has is we have across the country local providers that we work with that pick up the fuel, the EcoDiesel from a terminal, and will then come on site and drop it into the tank. And then you'd have the transport coordinator or the driver take the fuel from the tank and move it into the vehicles, equipment, etc. So on that back half, nothing is different. It is in the same sense of whether you're using diesel or you're using EcoDiesel, any of the safety requirements that driver would have is the same. Where the difference is, and I think this was a little bit of the learning through this process, we don't have a lot of tanks on site at production locations. It's a little bit of a newer or a nuance, if you will. So where those challenges come in is, where do we expect this tank to be dropped? Is it close to a building? Well, it has to be a certain distance away from a building. You mentioned the no smoking. Seems logical, seems like it makes sense, but if you have it near where the garbage or something like that is, or the recycling, sorry, we don't have any waste, where the recycling depots and the recycling bins are, that may be a popular spot for folks to want to go and have, a smoke on their break or something like that. Well, that's a no-no. So what we tried to do is have this liquid fuels handling code and this owner-operator's safety guide be that one size fits all, that we send out to all of our different customers that want to have tanks on site. Where the learning halfway through here was that we have to be a little bit more detailed in understanding that a lot of the productions here are not used to this types of bulk tanks. It's my job to make this easier. It's easy for me to say that the fuel itself is the same, but the process of having us drop it off, we need to have somebody on site, whether it's the landlord if it's a leased property or a site supervisor, tell us exactly where they plan on having the tank and how many users expect to actually be pulling the fuel off of that. Do those individuals have proper training to be able to pull the fuel? If they don't, we can assist and we can help with that. But these are some of the questions that along in the process, I think we learned a lot. Whereas a lot of other industries and customers that we have, a bulk tank on site is very normal for them. It's a construction yard that has it here for 6 weeks. We come, we deliver the tank, we pick it up in 6 weeks, and we take that tank and we drop it to another location. In the particular industry here of having a bulk tank on site, that's where some of the differences are. So this, screenshot that we have was a 6 or 7 page document, and I think the lessons learned was we probably had to add another page or two to make sure that it fit specifically with the location that this was being dropped off at.
And in preparing for the panel, you mentioned that there are more depots that are being installed across the GTA for this type of fuel. Is that something you're seeing growing and expanding? And how will that work?
With the help of everyone in this room and a higher fuel demand, yes. And I know we're here in Ontario today, so I do want to keep somewhat of the focus on that. But we're about 3-4 years behind what BC is seeing. And in Vancouver and the mainland, we not only have the bulk tank options, we have pickup from a cardlock truck stop locations. We were actually able to decommission an older tank and put EcoDiesel all year round in that tank, most in part because of the TV and the film industry. The need was there, the desire was there, and the willingness to actually pick up the product from one of those locations. So that's on Powell Street. I don't know if anyone here has ever worked in Vancouver. I'll ask the question. Anybody worked in BC and accessed the site a few times before? So that's fantastic. So that's been in place at that location now for 3 years. As this product gets more and more comfortable, as there's more people like Mark to be able to push me a little bit and say, just tell people that it's safe. If they need to see the OEMS approvals, send it to them. This is an easy solution, and the easier that you can make people aware of that, the more that we're going to be able to use this product in here. So unfortunately, it was a little late in the season this year, but we were able to get a Metro Depot bulk plant set up. So as of next year, you'll be able to actually pick up the fuel. A driver will be able to drive on site to one of those bulk tanks here in Ontario and pick that up. And in the next, you can't hold me to this, but I'm going to say 2 to 3 years' time here in Ontario, it'll also be available at our retail or cardlock locations. So that makes it much easier, again, through this whole process. You make it easier for an end user to be able to get the fuel, the demand is there.
That's great. We're going to hold you to that, just so you know. All right. Chris, I'm curious, we work in a unionized environment, and as an employer, I was wondering if there were any specific health and safety considerations you needed to consider when using this fuel.
Yeah, I mean, I'd take a step back and just talk generally about resistance. Like, I laugh, like, Mark, I'm sure all those calls you got from the vendors saying, you said it was okay, were really pleasant and great. Like, you're going to have an uptick and a problem with people really buying in and getting on board. So things like that are roadblocks, obviously. I think some of the union-specific stuff was mostly just around really what Sam was going through on the installation, the building, how it was being designated. As long as we were looking after everything that was required to get the tank functional and operational and safe for our fuel truck driver to use, we had no real issues with the crew. But yeah, just generally, like, its uptake is never easy, and I'm very blessed to have a transport coordinator who's very devoted to the mission every show. I don't have to really ask, but that's just the bigger thing. And I think with, we're not talking today about generators and things like that, but I think there's other areas of the industry where there's a training component. There's more people that are required to handle and deal with these things. I think that's where the friction points come. But I think as long as we're really proactive about what we're doing, obviously the first time this was used, we had a lot of roadblocks, came a little later than we hoped, but the goal of this was to find those stress points. And even if it meant we got renewable diesel in the last week or two, which is what happened, we wanted it sooner, we at least got all the way through this. We succeeded at getting it up and running. We found those stress points. So the next time it's us, or the next time it's one of you, hopefully that work we did starts you 3 or 4 steps ahead of the process, because just, yeah, someone's got to do it first.
Just staying on that topic, Mark, are there any specific insurance requirements for your vehicles or for the operators that are using this fuel?
No, not at all. There's no implications from insurance at all. And to Chris's point, we had the same concerns with EVs and hybrids as well, right? Like it was very difficult to charge them, and there was a lot of pushback on how do we do this. And now I don't think you can go to a set that doesn't have like a makeshift charger or a portable charger. So it's getting easier and easier and easier. And now we can't keep them in our fleet, like they're always out. And the same thing will happen with this. Like as we adopt it and the demand increases, there'll be more and more opportunity to have easier access to it. So I just think we need to someone has to say yes, and we just keep going, like, you know, with the people up here, we'll get there for sure, and all of you as well. So, but no insurance implications at all.
That's great. So it's very, very easy. Let's just turn to lessons learned and some of the sustainability gains. Sam, what were some of the lessons you learned through this project?
Well, I mentioned earlier that, you know, I thought I had checked a bunch of boxes and learned that there were even more on the next page that I was not aware of. My key lesson was if something seems really easy, like if it seems too easy, then it is, and you should ask a little bit more. We had a lot of, as I mentioned, the surprise vendors, the additional safety requirements, and I think part of it too is it's different when that tank shows up versus when it's just an idea. So really following through all of those threads was really important. I think another key lesson learned, and we talked about this a bit in the prep call, is this fuel is available for those months of the year where like the temperatures are warm enough that it can be used. I think that's fantastic because it gives us a start date to work towards, and a lot of productions here film throughout the summer. So I think I'm really excited to see what next summer brings in terms of if and how many productions can take up more renewable diesel. But I think that timeline was really critical. One story that I love, and I forget if it was on this project or another one, but we actually had somebody who was really skeptical of using the fuel in their equipment. They didn't trust us. They didn't trust the certifications. They didn't trust the OEM list. And they confessed later that they actually took a sample of that fuel home to test in their own equipment and on their own products, and then came back and said, actually, it's fine. You guys are great. Like this product works. So, we talk about this with clean tech all the time, but getting it in, not in people's hands, you shouldn't touch this stuff, but getting it in people's engines and building up just that comfort level and familiarity, I think that was a key lesson learned as well. And I'm going to echo what Chris said. I'm so pleased that we were able to do this and find all those roadblocks, but still actually get the fuel in the equipment, because that was, I think we've broken through a lot of barriers that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Brendan, same question. What lessons were learned? And actually, could you just clarify which months or what temperatures this fuel is good for?
Absolutely. So I won't pretend to play the role of a technical specifications and fuel quality expert here, but the low temperature operability of EcoDiesel, the current blend of it is really only usable when temperatures are consistent and above 7 degrees Celsius. So I'd liken it to think of when you put your winter tires on or your winter tires off. That's roughly sort of the window that you're looking at here. So mid to late April, early May, right to sort of the end of October. If Suncor sells a product that we're not comfortable with, that's safe, we're in trouble too. So I know the theme here has been on the safety end of what do we have to do at site level. We're not going to sell a fuel that has a possibility to gel in your engine. So I would like to say that we're maybe a little bit more conservative in that time frame. But again, as the demand and as the peak picks up for it, we'll look at tinkering that demand and trying to have it run a little bit further into the season. Whereas in Vancouver, the temperature doesn't get below to that point. So it is a 12-month of the year offering. So in terms of bringing back to the question on lessons learned, getting ahead of that, I would say. Getting your SuperPass account set up and your card set up is quite easy right now. For any of the production crews that are here, it's a 1, sometimes 2-day process. We send the cards out through a Purelator and you're good and ready to go. When it comes to the bulk piece, it can be weeks in the making. And unfortunately, when you get a panicked Samantha phone call on a Friday saying, hold off, it's really tough at that point to keep the momentum going and not on our end pause that as well. So I think the open dialogue that we've now had as a post-wrap to understand where those challenges, where those potential pain points comes from, allows me in my role to be able to say, what are you foreseeing as those challenges? How do I help and get past those earlier on in the process? And knowing that the product is only going to be available in April, if we start getting in some of those requests now and build out a little bit of a storybook of we're going to move from this show and this production here, and then we're going to bounce to this one, and then we're going to bounce to this one. I think you folks in the industry are very used to understanding that you're going to work on one show and you're already starting up on another one. That type of work doesn't happen in a lot of the cases where I'm setting up these types of accounts in these situations. It is a very simple process for me, if you will, of start and stop, whereas for you and everyone in this room, you're working multiple different productions at the same time. The more advance notice that we get to get things set up, the easier it is, I think, for everyone in the end.
That's great. Thank you. Chris, lessons learned?
Say again?
Oh, what lessons did you learn through this
I was
process?
gonna say, what if you're someone who puts your winter tires on once the snow falls? It's not a good barometer. No, I think we hit on it. I mean, I think the big lesson learned for me is just that new initiatives take time. I don't think we could have really been ahead of it anymore. It was a priority pretty early on. Thankfully, with the TV schedule, you have some months, so if you hit roadblocks, you're not in wrap, but we were pretty close. But yeah, honestly, just lessons learned. And I think having, I'm not here to promote GreenSpark, but I mean, I think having folks like that it is their business, that they are constantly able to pool lessons learned from a variety of productions, what's sort of going on in the industry, and just like lean on that. Like if you're thinking about using this, call her, call them. Like they can walk you through everything that we went through so you don't have to go through it again.
That's great. Mark, you get the last word. Any lessons learned?
Just be available. And when Samantha makes a call, turn my phone on silent for a couple days after. But yeah, no, it's easy on our end. It's super easy. So
That's great. Yep. Okay. Thank you so much to the panel. I think we've got about 10 minutes for questions. So does anyone have any questions for this great panel? Over here.
Hello.
The red.
Yeah, we want you to use a mic too for accessibility. Make sure everybody can hear you. Okay. We'll come to you after.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question about the renewable diesel relative to conventional diesel. And is there a simple way for we laymen to understand the virtues? And or is it possible to give us a price per liter comparable? Thank you.
Brendan.
Can we flip? Is it okay to go to that last slide now? Is this the time? This is the so on the last slide here. If we can pull this one up, it does provide a little bit of a comparable to different products. So the EcoDiesel to other diesels that you're looking at, biodiesel. I won't go through each column here, and I think that this is publicly shared information. It's on our website, so anyone that wants this, either maybe not the whole deck. I don't know if there's secrets or anything like that that's in there, but at least this page, we can provide that. So it burns cleaner from an emissions perspective, the total cost of ownership based on compared to diesel. That's what sort of this graph is trying to walk through in terms of that cost. In terms of a cost per liter, you are going to pay a premium. I'm going to be the first person to be upfront and transparent, was the word we used in pre-discussions here. There is a premium on this product. And that also incorporates the delivery fee of what you're looking to actually have to pay for into a tank. And our friends at the government level, unfortunately with the removal of the federal carbon tax, that had a huge implication on the cost of this product to the end consumer at the end of it. So if I had to give a rough number, I'm going to say about 20 cents per liter more than what you'd be paying at the regular pump. And that's the premium. That's going to be the delivery charge and embedded in any rental tank fees that you're looking at, which in this particular test pilot was a $300 monthly charge for it. So not absorbent, but still something. If you're looking at your cost, it's an extra $300 that you wouldn't have had with your standard operations. Did I answer all of that? Most of it? Some of it?
Mike.
Sorry, Melanie. I went back for a question too on that one. That was me. That's my fault. Sorry.
I'm sorry. The process, though, I mean, diesel is diesel is diesel, and when it was referred to as renewable, versus eco? Are we talking about the same thing in that case?
So EcoDiesel is one of the forms of renewable diesel that we're looking at. So there's also biofuels. There's other types of fuels that are part of that. We'll call it headline, if you will. EcoDiesel is one of those types, and it's the product that we used in this particular pilot, and it's the product, to be honest, that Suncor and Petro-Canada, I really think are going to be leveraging and moving forward in the space for. And that's where having a test pilot example in this particular industry as the consistent driver, we took the success that we had in BC, and we're now trying to add that into Ontario and speed up the process a little bit. So you're not looking at 3 years from now for something at the pump.
That's great. I think we've got another question over here.
Hi, this is a question, I guess, for Samantha as well as Brendan. So in terms of estimating, and sorry, I should say I'm with Earth Angel, in terms of estimating the fuel that was going to be used, I'm curious how you were able to size the tank. Productions differ. And Brendan, is the EcoDiesel the Enercam project out of Montreal? Because that's quite interesting. If so, that was a huge investment by the federal government, almost $1 billion. And that's a major Canadian success story that I think would be worth profiling, if that is the case.
So I'll take the first part and it'll answer the second question first. So this particular EcoDiesel product that we have actually comes from somewhere a little bit further south than the country that we're in right now. So we actually have to vessel this product in, have it come through the St. Lawrence Seaway, and it actually then heads into to Suncor's Oakville terminal there, and that's where we actually keep the product for those 8 months of the selling season. At this moment in time, the demand for us to produce that product wasn't there, and unfortunately, the other fuel blenders suppliers are not going to give us access to all of the sites and the locations that they're looking at, because they're looking to get it out into the market. So there is still a little bit of that business play, but I was speaking to an individual here from Newfoundland before we started here, indicating that there may be an opportunity we can pick up some homegrown product that works similar to EcoDiesel. I can't comment on pricing on that piece because it was a 5-minute conversation over a coffee and a croissant, but we are a Canadian energy company, and if we can have it in Canada, we certainly would prefer to have that. The first question now.
Yeah, so I will say that was a bit of a moving target. We've already mentioned our timeline changing. When I priced out at the beginning of the production, when I was looking at quoting for the costs or soliciting those quotes, we understood generally what the consumption in the generators and the trucks was. And so that's how we were able to decide. With our changing timeline, we actually downsized the tank that we ended up using, and that was okay because we still managed to use it. But yeah, just generally getting a sense, if you don't have the numbers directly, talking to the Genny Op, the Genny Op and also the fuel truck driver, because they have a really good sense of how much they go through, and that can help you build out that plan.
That's a great question. Are there other questions? I think we have time for one more. Down in the front.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Wayne. I'm involved in a company called BI Canada. We provide sustainable equipment for base camps, Techland, all of that fun stuff. But I'm also a transport coordinator, but I've never played a doctor on TV. The studios, do you guys have any, what can you tell us about the reception from the studios in putting the bulk tanks on site? First question. Second one, because BI Canada has, sustainable trailers, but we also have trucks to pull them with, they're still looking for alternative solutions. If we wanted to get a tank on site up there, would pretty easy process for the 6-8 months of the year?
So the first question, Sam, I think that might be best for you to respond.
Yeah. You're talking about the studio facility lots, right? I certainly could not blanket statement all of the different facilities that we have in Toronto, let alone the GTA. But it is a fuel tank, so there are issues. It needs to be placed in a way where you're not going to bump it with a forklift, was a scenario that we were told about. So it's worth having that conversation as early as possible because every facility is going to have different regulations and guidelines. I had preliminary conversations on another project with different facilities, and their perspective was that, yeah, it could be doable, we just don't know how to do it yet. So we would have had to spend quite a bit of time figuring that out. So I might leave it there because I'm also looking at our clock, but it's definitely worth a conversation as early as possible, which is what I will continue to do too.
And I'll take 10 seconds on the tank piece with it. We've got local providers across the country. If you call me and say, well, look, we'd like to put a 2,200 liter tank, how quick can you get it? Those are standard options. Those could be there within a week.
That's great. Okay, I think that wraps the panel. I wanted to say thank you to everyone. I think we've learned that a relatively low effort can make a fairly high impact on set. When we establish crew buy-in, it's really important to do that at all levels of production, and renewable EcoDiesel certainly offers real power savings. So again, wanted to thank this incredible panel for offering up so much great information, and I hope you all have a great conference today. So thank you.
Thank you.